so let's get right into it. My name is Stella Mfoafo-M'Carthy. Don't worry about the last name. Just stick with Stella. I am a counselor, I'm a therapist. I work at the University of Guelph. I've been there for the past 12 years. Prior to that, I was working with Durham Region Family Services. So I worked with families and children, but now I'm mainly working with youth and young adults. I'm a social worker by profession. I'm very passionate about my job, and I'm passionate about mental health issues too. So I'm glad that I got this opportunity to come and share with you. I know from your agenda, you know I wasn't supposed to be here, but I'm here, stepping in for the person who was supposed to come lead this workshop. So what I typically do in my workshop is I don't just lecture, I make it more interactional. So if I'm asking questions, I want us to be engaged with it as well. I'll speak for about 40 minutes or so and then give time for questions, because maybe you have a lot of them, I don't know. We have a lot of questions that we can go through it. So I have a few slides that I want to share with you. I would prefer, ideally, that the questions are at the end of our session, but if something comes up and you have a question, just raise your hands. I would be more than willing to expand on it if I need to, okay? I always say that with a workshop, we don't have to be rigid. It could be flexible because we are here because of you. Okay, so we're going to be talking about mental health. I think the topic that I was giving is mental health having hope. So that's good. We don't just land on, you know, the challenges that people face with their mental well-being, but we're going to hopefully end on the idea that there is hope. And I like that. I like hope, because if you don't have hope, then you don't have anything in life. Okay, so I'm glad that we're going to expand on that. So let's talk about mental health. So I'm going to, I'm going to talk about mental well-being. There's a difference between mental illness, which now we stay away from. We talk about mental well-being. And I just picked one major thing, depression, to talk about because it's quite common. And we don't have enough time to expand on all the diagnoses, so we would stick with depression. But I would like to leave an ample time to talk about how do we manage this. And also, if you are here as a helper, if you're here as a support, how do you support people who are struggling with their mental health? Okay, so I will spend a little bit more time on intervention. So the World Health Organization defines mental health as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own potential. You can cope with normal stresses of life. Who knows life is stressful? Oh, okay, I thought I was the only one. Okay. Life is very stressful, especially this day and age, okay? So if you are able to realize your own potential and cope with normal stresses of life, and you can be productive, so you work productively and fruitfully and is able to make contribution to your community, then you have mental health. The opposite is true. When this state of well-being is threatened, the individual becomes non-functional in their day-to-day activities, then mental illness is present. So when you are not able to engage in your community, you're not able to engage with your peers, you're not able to do life, right? Because again, you're struggling with your mental health, then it's defined as mental illness. So that is a definition. This is not mine. WHO's definition of mental health. So let's look at what mental health issues are. So basically, when we talk about mental health struggles, and today I'm not going to only focus on your mental well-being, because I believe that we have to look at mental health in a holistic view, okay? So you can't talk about mental health without talking about physical health. You can't talk about physical health without talking about your spiritual health. So I usually, can I move? Or no, I have to stand here? I just don't. I would typically describe, and again, this is just a vague, I'm a writer too, so I'm glad that we have the right. So we're all doing talking about our mental health, how I describe. So this may be you, okay? So mental health is just one component of your life. We have your spiritual health, physical health, social health, environmental factors, education, and you can add to it. Okay, so this is our lives. We can't compartmentalize them. One aspect of your life can affect the other. I always say that one time, I think 2 or 3 years ago in the summer, I broke my small pinky, how do you call it? Toe, pinky toe? Pink toe, okay. I broke my pinky toe. You wouldn't believe it, for over a year, I could not put on shoes. You think that is a small pinky toe, who cares, right? But it affected my whole body, sometimes pain, I can't sleep. So when we're talking about your mental health, don't ignore the fact that it can affect your physical health. And I'll explain that when you're dealing with depression, sometimes you can't even get out of bed, right? So our mental health can affect, you don't even want to go to church. You don't want to do anything. Social life, so if I may put here social life, I may put here your mental health, I may put here education, I may put here environmental factors. These are so interconnected. So everything I'm going to talk about, don't see it as a separate entity. See it in a holistic view, please. So that's what I wanted to mention before I continue my presentation, okay? So we want to have a holistic approach to our mental health. Mental health issues, again, is I define it that it's no respecter of persons. What do I mean by that? When I say this, of course, you have the answer, but what do I mean when I say mental health challenges is no respecter of persons? Any thoughts? Anyone? No? Meaning it can affect anybody. Race, gender, it doesn't matter socioeconomic status, anyone can be impacted with their mental health. It's not for a particular group, it's not for youth only. Adults can struggle with their mental health. So when we think about mental health, we shouldn't just limit to a group of people. But I'm glad that I'm speaking to youth and young adults and some older people. Older, we don't use the word old, older, okay? Some older individuals here, because it can affect everyone, okay? So such challenges could be anything from, and I've listed a few, what we call disorders here, okay? So when we talk about mental disorder, here I'm not just talking about I'm feeling the blues. You know, I'm not talking just how many of us sometimes feel off? We all do, you know, like a day like this. It's gloomy and it's like, yeah, yucky, you don't have energy. You know, you feel the blues. That is not mental disorder, okay? You're just having a bad day. You're feeling off. When we talk about, and this is just a sample of the diagnosis that, and I just want to explain this a little bit further so that you get it. The fact that you're feeling the blue doesn't necessarily mean that you have a mental disorder, okay? Sometimes people confuse it because they feel like I'm feeling a bit off, so I'm depressed. People just throw the words out there. Oh, I'm depressed, so I feel anxious. Are you really? Maybe not, okay? So these are some of the disorders that we know. You know, so mood disorder, that is depression, seasonal affective disorder, which is SADS, if you've heard about it. Bipolar disorder, we have anxiety. So in most young adults and most youth, depression and anxiety is quite prevalent, okay? And then we can also have obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, borderline personality. So these are just a few. When we talk about these diagnoses, unfortunately, I couldn't bring my big DSM-5 because it's at work at Guelph, so I just brought the small version. So this is an example of what we call DSM-5. So it's produced by the American Psychiatric Association. It's gone over from DSM-1, 2, 3, now we're on 5 because life changes. So they keep redefining diagnosis. So any of these diagnoses has to be in the DSM-5. Psychiatrist, family physician, okay, and a psychologist are the professionals that can diagnose you with a disorder. So please don't let Dr. Google do it for you. Some people go online, they Google the symptoms, and then they self-diagnose. It's very, very risky, okay? We will talk about symptoms, we'll talk about how you feel. If you're feeling anything, go see your physician. A physician that is well-versed in mental health issues. Not all doctors quite understand mental health diagnosis. So if you have one of those doctors and you're feeling like, I don't know, seek a second opinion, okay? So any diagnosis will be from the DSM-5. This is a diagnostic tool that is used to define all the mental health disorder. So it's not something that is just pulled out of a hat. Okay, so I just really wanted to clarify that, because a lot of people self-diagnose and it's not healthy, and then they put themselves on medication and all that. But so this is a small version, but the bigger one is somewhere out there. Okay, so as I said, this is just a sample, because there's so many of them in the DSM-5. So let's have some facts and figures, okay? And this is based in research. It's not like, so 1 in 5 Canadians will personally experience mental health challenges in their lifetime. That's a lot, 1 in 5. Approximately 8% of adults will experience major depression in some time in their lives. 8%, it's not too bad. About 1% of Canadians will experience bipolar disorder, and again, these are just statistics that I'm quickly rushing through because I want to give time for other things. Schizophrenia affects 1% of Canadian population. Anxiety disorder, which I've mentioned, affects 5% of the household population, causing mild to severe impairment. Again, mental health disorders are usually on a spectrum, okay? Because if you go to a doctor and they do an assessment, and I couldn't bring the sheets of paper, but there's a tool that most doctors or psychiatrists will use. They'll ask you specific questions. In the past 2 weeks, what are the symptoms? So you mention, yeah, I can't sleep, I can't eat, and they would record all that and tabulate the numbers. So based on your number, it could be from a mild depression to a medium depression to severe depression. So it's always on a continuum. Okay, so everybody's very different, and everybody's experience with their mental health is different. So there's not one size fit all. Please remember that. Okay. So approximately 4,500 people in Canada die of suicide. So that's 12 every day. Suicide accounts for 24% of all deaths among 15 to 24-year-old individuals and 16% among 25 to 44. So that's the statistics we have. A lot of, the number apparently seems to be coming down in recent statistics that we have, which is good news because it means that maybe people are seeking help and people are connecting a little bit more. But these are the statistics that we had in 2010, 2011. So more than 75% of suicide involve men. Men are more likely to follow through with suicidality than women, although women attempt more. So there's the difference between attempting to kill yourself and then actually following through, but men are more likely to do that than women, okay? And there is an economic cost to our mental health issues. So again, quickly rushing through the numbers. So the health issues in Canada estimate that $15 billion a year is spent on mental health costs. And this is because people are unable to either go to work, they can't do their jobs, they're sleeping in, and different things that happens, or the medical field having to get medication or having to go for therapy. So this is the cost that is associated with it. Mostly people in most remote areas of Canada struggle to get services to manage their mental health because the resources are limited, but the need is very high, okay? Unemployment rate is 70% to 90% for people with severe, and again, with severe mental health issues. The major issue about our mental health is stigma. People don't want to talk about it. Why do you think people don't want to talk about their mental health challenges? Any thoughts? Talk to me. Yes.
They might feel embarrassed.
They might feel embarrassed, right? People are just, I don't want to talk about it. They might feel embarrassed, so they don't want to talk about it. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
It makes it a lot more real.
It makes it a lot more real. If I don't talk about it, then it's not there, okay? Don't talk about it, then it's not there. So yeah, people don't want to touch it, right? Anything else? Yes?
They might feel like they're broken in some way.
They might feel they're broken in some way. They are not whole. So no, I don't want to talk about it, okay? I've always given this analogy that if you have a broken, maybe you twisted your arm and you put in a sling and you have a cast on, what would people typically do? Pardon? Oh, they ask you, what happened? What happened to you, right? Yes, and your hand was up too. What else? You're going to say the same thing?
No, that was what I was going to say.
Yeah, so what were you going to say?
I was going to say, to ask what happened.
Okay, yeah, so people ask you, what happened? What happened to you? Oh, my dear, what happened to you? Anything else that you've noticed? Yes?
They would normally like pity you or something.
They will pity you. I'm so sorry. Or is there something I can do, right? Sometimes they will sign off their casts. Have you seen that before? Yeah, they will put their signatures on because people are really feeling sorry for you. Yes.
They assume stuff about you.
Yeah, they will assume, so what happened? Maybe you should slow down, right? So genuinely, they want to make sure they're supporting you. And this is our physical health. But with your mental health, nobody sees it. You struggle alone. Nobody sees it. Those who are close to you may see that you're a bit off, but they might think you're tired, right? Nobody sees mental health issues because it's in our brain. Sometimes we only see it when somebody takes their lives. That's why I'm passionate about these workshops, so that you know that there is help. You don't have to suffer alone. Because it can be very lonely when you're dealing with your mental health challenges, because nobody sees it. Okay? So the stigma around mental health challenges is quite obvious, and especially, and again, as you can rightly see, I'm a person of color. In certain cultures, you don't even talk about it, right? And sometimes it's also always spiritualized. Everything becomes, it's a demon and it's the spirit. I know I'm in a church, I'm very backslidden, but you know, sometimes we limit it just to that. But there are a lot of other things that we can do to support, especially our youth and young adults, okay? So there's so much stigma around it. If you're diagnosed with, as I said, a broken arm or cancer, people actually rally behind you, rally to support you. But when you're dealing with your mental health, it's not touched. So there are a few questions that were put out. Respondents who say that they are 3 times less likely to discuss their mental health issues like depression, even with their bosses at work. Some people would never talk about it because they were afraid that they will lose their jobs or they'll be seen differently. And nobody wants to be seen differently, okay? Nobody wants to be seen differently. What have you, if any, thoughts about societal's view of those who struggle with their mental health? What do you know about that? Like as a society, how do we view mental health? Any thoughts? Yes.
Can I just slightly ask the question differently?
Yes.
Because like if I think of Bill, Let's Talk, that's been like 10 years, 15 years. So the message has gone out for years and years, let's talk. But 15, 20 years later, we're still talking about not talking. So, like, is there within the mental health profession a discussion as to why that's happening? Is it the message? Is it, like, it would seem there'd be a comfortableness, and I do wonder if there's a comfortableness in the next generation, because they've been raised with, which I think is really healthy, but we're still talking about not talking. You know my question?
Yes, so what I'm hearing you saying, correct me if I'm wrong, is it seems like it's in the mainstream, right? Yeah. So Let's Talk, we have Mental Health Awareness Day, people are wearing t-shirts, so it's in the mainstream. So why are we still saying let's talk about it? Why is it still stigmatized?
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that there's so many pieces to the puzzle because, again, listen to the news. If there's any shooting or there's any problem anywhere, the first thing you may possibly hear is, yeah, they were mentally ill. Right? The media will quickly go there. So then people associate, unfortunately, mental health challenges with violence. There's something wrong with you. They are killing people, they are shooting people, I don't want to touch it. But mental health challenges is not just that. It's about you not being able to get out of bed to go to class. It's about you feeling like you don't belong. It's about you isolating yourself. So there's so many nuances about mental health challenges that people don't want to talk about because, again, there is shaming. And people think there's something wrong with them. And when you feel like an other, clearly you want to dissociate yourself from it as much as you possibly can. So it's great that we have the All Let's Talk Day, and I think we need to continue doing that. And again, workshops like this can be very helpful. So any opportunity that we get, and I'm hoping that we don't stop here, whatever information you are gathering, I'm hoping that you can take it along and share it with your friends too. So as we keep doing this work, and I'm glad to hear that the government is also investing in it. You know, funds are being set aside to help mental health professionals, and so the work is still like, it's big. So we have to keep pushing through, yeah, because it's a very difficult conversation to have because it impacts people in so many ways. So yes, we are talking about it, yet we have to talk more about it. So I don't know if that opens it up a little bit. Yes, okay. Okay, so people would not identify certain cultures. Even you have to go, you know, investigate into the family whether they have mental health issues before you are even married into it. Because again, the notion is that it will trickle down into the other family members. No one specifically know, and that one is not on my slide, but no one's, I think it is, let me see. Yes, okay, yes, the next one, I was jumping ahead of myself. No one knows specifically why people struggle with their mental health, okay? So it's what we call the etiology of mental health. It's not one issue. It's multiple of issues that really causes people to struggle with their mental health. The main thing here can be attributed to genetics. I've always said it's not your fault. If you're born into a family that struggle with their mental health, then you are more likely to struggle with your mental health as well. So if you have a family member who struggles with anxiety, it could be a parent, grandparents, great-grandparents, an uncle, you are more likely, so what we call predisposition, you are more predisposed to also struggling with your mental health. That's why sometimes it's important to have those difficult conversations with your parents or grandparents. Does anyone in our family struggle with their mental health? I'm not sure. I think grandpa was a little bit grumpy and, you know, or yeah, your aunt over there was taking medication or whatever. So, but people don't want to even talk about it because of it's the shame that they feel. So I've always said to my clients, it's not your fault. And I'll say it again. If you know anyone struggling with their mental health, it's not their fault. Nobody signs up to say, you know what, I'm so tired of life, just give me depression. Nobody does that. Nobody says, you know, I'm bored, so I want to be anxious. Nobody does that. So that's the etiology of mental health. It's attributed to genetics, chemical imbalance in the brain. As I said, time will not permit us, but if you have time and you want to do some more research, if you actually look at the brain of somebody who's struggling with depression, you could see that certain parts of their brain, there isn't a lot of activity there. Like scientifically, you know, and it could be another workshop for another day. The brain will actually show you the chemical imbalance. That's why when a doctor is proposing what we call SSRIs, serotonin inhibited uptake, to help with the brain, that is why we would recommend medication, because there are functions in your brain that is not up to date. So the medication does help. Okay, so there might be chemical, again, it's not your fault. It's not your fault that that is happening in your brain. It could be major life events like trauma. If you live in a war zone, you'll be traumatized. That can really spark your mental health going downhill. It could be a job loss or retirement. It could be social setting. People don't want to associate with you. And a lot of people from the age of 16 to 24 is when they have their first mental health break. And I always say it's because of the transition. You're transitioning into life. You're no longer a child. You're not an adult. You're in this funny place, right, that you don't even know what to call it. So a lot of people experience their first mental health break during that time. Stresses of life, drugs or alcohol can trigger that. Weed have been known to actually cause people to become psychotic. If you are prone to mental health challenges and you don't know and you keep taking weed, it can, you know, damage your brain activity. So again, there's no one thing that causes mental health challenges, so that you know it's not because I did A or B or C, it's a multiple of things. Okay? Okay, any questions before I continue? Does it all make sense to people? I see nods, okay. Give me a thumbs up if we are all good. Okay, okay. Okay. So I said I chose depression again because I can't talk about all the diagnoses in the DSM-5, and depression is quite common, okay? Depression and anxiety, for especially in our work, we see a lot of young adults, a lot of youth struggle with depression or anxiety, okay? So depression, every human being feels down. I think I talked about this earlier on. We get the blues, you know, you don't feel like doing anything, you want to sleep in bed. The feeling is usually short-lived. That's the difference. It's short-lived. For others, the condition may be severe and long-lasting. So if you consistently feel like low motivation, if you're consistently feeling like you don't have hope, if you consistently feel like what is the point to life, if you're consistently feeling like you don't have energy, if you're consistently losing interest in things that you already have interest in, you are isolating yourself, you're not connecting with your friends, you used to play the guitar or you used to play sports, you don't want to do it anymore. And this continues for a number of weeks, okay? Please seek help. It's not just the blues. Something else is going on. Seek help, because some people have, you know, you want to do this, do that, but all of a sudden your energy, you know, plummets and you don't want to do anything. Seek help, okay? And I've already mentioned it. Depression there can be a late onset of the symptoms if you're a little bit older, like age 55 onwards, but it's very common in young adults, 14 to 24, okay? And seasonal affective, I don't know if you've ever had SADS. It's a part of depression, okay? So the season changes. So when we have the summer months, it's lovely, it's nice, but then get to November time, the weather gets gloomy, there's no sunshine, then you get really, really down. That's what it's called the season. So seasonal affective disorder. Again, you get some mild to medium, you know, low energy, you don't want to move, you don't want to do anything. The weather gets cold, it's gloomy, you limit your social interactions, and then when summer comes, you're fine, right? So again, this is a type of depression that we need to be mindful of. I've already mentioned this at the DSM-5 and the diagnostic tool. So the symptoms that I've mentioned, and be mindful of the symptoms: lack of interest in things that you're interested in, low energy. Some people sleep a lot more than usual, or they sleep less. These are all the symptoms, okay? Lack of appetite. So you don't feel like eating anything, or you're eating too much, okay? Isolating, you don't want to connect with friends. You know, you're a very outgoing, bubbly person, all of a sudden you shut down. You don't want to connect with anyone. So these are the major symptoms. And if the symptoms, 2 or more, persist for 2 weeks, into 3 or a month, then there's a problem. Please seek help. If you're having suicidal thoughts, you've lost hope, what is the point to live? There's no point to live. Please reach out for help, because there is help. Remember the topic for today, having hope. And there is hope, and there is help out there for you, okay? Do I still have time? Okay. Okay, so I've gone over this, I've already mentioned it, lack of sleep, so these are all symptoms, okay? Yeah, I've mentioned all this already: fatigue, loss of energy, lack of interest in things. You become a little bit cynical, you know, negativity. It's always like the glass is half empty kind of thought, not half full. Suicidal thoughts, you have a plan, please reach out to somebody. So this, I just chose depression because I couldn't, there's not enough time to talk about it. The anxious brain is another thing. Maybe I'll quickly mention that. People can be highly anxious about things, right? They get highly anxious, and what happens with depressive symptoms and anxiety, I always say there's like buddies. They mimic each other. Because when you're feeling depressed and you don't want to leave your house, you don't want to leave your room, meanwhile you have school, and you can't do schoolwork, then you start feeling anxious about it. Right, so it really, and then you get highly anxious, you're not functioning well, and then it affirms, and then you just want to sleep in bed, so it really becomes this messy sort of interaction with depressive symptoms and anxiety. Okay, so there is hope. The fact that you're diagnosed, if you choose to, you realize that something is not going well and you need help. The fact that you go seek help doesn't mean that you have to live with intense symptoms of either depressive symptoms or anxiety for the rest of your life. There is help. There's actually help. Research has shown that positive state of mental health, overall mental well-being among young adults like you, it's a great incentive for people to actually have better education and to be healthy with their social interactions, increase their self-confidence. So really having that strong sense of self is very, very important for young adults. But when you're struggling with your mental well-being, that can really take away from you. Because then you lose a lot. It almost feels like you lose gaps in your life, okay? So let's talk about practical ways that you can actually get help. For me, the first thing I would say is, and I have other interventions here, and they may not always be on the list, meditate on the Word of God. I'm a strong believer, and we're in a church, so I don't want to make assumptions, but I hope you all hold your faith very dearly to you. Meditate on Scripture. Look for scriptures that you can actually read every day. Find your own. We know through Scripture there are people who struggle with their mental health. Saul, struggled with his mental health, so David will have to go play the music for him to then calm down, right? We know that David himself, if you read the Psalms, there were so many times that he felt despair. Right? Yeah, so there's so many instances in the Bible that people struggle with their mental health. So if we struggle with our mental health, God knows. Don't think it's beyond him. Don't think God doesn't see your struggles. So look for scriptures that can really help you. Because I believe, I don't know how many people do you like gardening? Okay, you do, Lorraine. You do like gardening too, okay. So just two? Oh dear. So what do you all like doing? What do you do for fun? I don't know. Yes?
Paint.
Paint, I see that. You're, good for you. Yes?
Playing the drums.
Playing the drums. Okay, that's lovely. Sports. What sports do you do?
Basketball and rugby.
Oh, I love basketball. Oh, yeah. My daughter used to play basketball. Good for you. Yes?
Sports and hanging out with friends.
Sports and hanging out with friends. Okay. So at least you do so. Yes. Yes. I saw your hand. Don't put it down yet. Playing piano. Okay. So there are a few of you, only two green thumbers, but a few of you do other things. And the green thumbers, I wanted to use that as an illustration because whatever you feed will grow.
Yeah.
So can you give me an example of a plant that you've actually fed and nurtured and that is grown? If you don't mind, Lorraine.
No, I don't, but you can see that.
Yes, I can see that.
My friend gave me this stick one fall, a stick, trust me. And I looked at her, I said, what am I gonna do with this stick? It's dead. And she goes, no, it's not. So she told me to put it in some soil and water it. And for 3 months, I watered it. And all of a sudden, it started to sprout little leaves. And then in the spring, I put it outside, and the leaves got bigger, and the next thing I know, the stick developed these huge trumpet flowers.
Oh.
And every fall, I take it back inside, and it goes back to a stick. And I have to water it, and it looks dead. And then about this time of year, when the sun changes, it starts to sprout again. So I have to be patient when it's a stick.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorraine. So Lorraine's example is what I'm trying to refer to. Whatever you feed will grow. If Lorraine had been absent-minded and did not take care of the stick, she would not get this beautiful, flower or leaves that come out. So feed your brain with the Word of God. Just pick up scriptures and feed on it when you're feeling down. Feed your brain with the Word of God because it makes a difference, okay? So that is the first thing I would say before I even go on to my professional stuff, because I believe that the Bible has so many answers for us when we are struggling with our mental health. God created us. He knows our frame. So why can't we go to him when we are struggling? Okay, so I'll start with that because I don't want to take scripture out of what we do. The other thing, as you can see, seek professional help. Don't self-diagnose, please. Whatever you do, don't self-diagnose because it may not be what you think it is. Go talk to your physician. If you're comfortable talking to your parents, talk to somebody that you trust, okay? Talk to a physician who understands mental health issues. Because I've had clients tell me, I spoke to my doctor and they just, oh, it's a phase, it will just pass. So they were not listening to this person, but the person was really struggling. You know, so talk to a physician who gets mental health challenges, discuss your symptoms with them, and look for what we do then, okay? I use the word consider going on medication because most people don't want to touch it. No, I don't want to go on medication, you know? Then I'm going to be on it forever. Sometimes, if you don't take medication to help you, and I'm using the word stabilize very loosely, even counseling alone cannot help. Because if you're not fully present to engage in some of the activities we're talking about, then you can't even do counseling. So if you're really, really at a very difficult place and there's a need to go on medication, just consider it. Consider with your physician, and most physicians will do a follow-up. Is it working? Is it not working? If so, what can we do differently? So then you are fully engaged in your own care, okay? So I know people are smart, you have a lot of information. If something is not working for you, go back to the drawing table with your physician. Yes, Lorraine?
Can you, because sometimes doctors don't always pay attention, there's a lot of people now trained to be called what they call psychotherapists. And they can't prescribe, but can you tell them what that person does? Because I've been finding that young people seem to prefer to talk to a psychotherapist versus a doctor.
Okay, good question, Lorraine. So what Lorraine is referring to is sometimes people talk to their doctors, but you go in with 5 minutes. I don't know how. Yeah. I see my doctor for 5 minutes, like, you know. So you go in, okay, this is, and then, you know, based on your symptoms. So the doctors are able to, and I think I mentioned 3 professions who are able to diagnose. So your doctor can diagnose and give you medication. Psychiatrist can diagnose and put you on medication. A psychologist can diagnose, but they don't prescribe medication, okay? The psychotherapists that Lorraine is, so these are a form of therapists. So I am a social worker, but I provide counseling. I'm not a psychotherapist, but I do psychotherapy because I do use a lot of interventions. So the psychotherapist is a designation, right? So because you have psychologists, you have psychotherapists, you have Christian counselors. These are all designations, right? But we do similar things. We do therapy. By therapy, I mean you come in, you see me, for example, then we talk about what brings you here, what's going on. I do an assessment. So I ask for symptoms, what's going on, and I cannot prescribe medication, but I can work with you on some of these things. And then we check in every 2 weeks. Now it's busy, so we don't do 2 weeks. Every 3 weeks or so to see if the practical things that we are describing, you are implementing them and you're seeing changes. Right? So the psychotherapists, basically, they do therapy. By therapy, they ask, what are the symptoms? What have you tried? What have you not tried? Let's talk about other things that you can actually do, but they cannot prescribe medication. So there's a difference between a psychotherapist and a psychologist, a psychiatrist. They're all these fancy names. But therapists usually will work with you on interventions. Let's do this. Let's try this and see. So if somebody, for example, you're playing your drums, let's see if we can set up practical things that can help you not put your drums away, that you can engage with your drums. And then you come see me in 2 weeks, and then we'll see if things are improving. Okay? So seek counseling and learn about tools to help manage your symptoms. So that's what I was talking about. We work on tools. What can we do? So some of the tools can be what we call deep breathing exercises, right? Because sometimes, especially if you're struggling with anxiety, people don't know how to breathe from their bellies. They breathe from their chest. So that can make the anxiety even worse, okay? So when you go see a therapist, they're going to work with you to do what we call deep breathing exercises, where you can breathe from your diaphragm and not from your chest, so that you can actually take in a lot of oxygen to help you stay grounded, to deal with, especially panic. How many of you have heard about panic attacks? Okay. Because when you're having a panic attack, basically you're not breathing well, right? So when you're not breathing well, you're not taking in a lot of oxygen. So you feel faint. And sometimes you feel like actually I've had people go to the emergency ward thinking they're having a heart attack, but it's a panic attack, okay? So deep breathing exercises will help you ground yourself. Yes. Oh, what happened there? Pardon?
Might seem to tickle the mouse. There we go.
It's coming back? Oh. Oh, well, if it stops, I have cheat sheet. Is it cheat sheet you call it? So if you're having a panic attack, learn, and this, so you can look it up on the internet. How do you deep breathe? So deep breathing, you can use deep breathing. So I like shutting my eyes, especially if you're stressed too. You shut your eyes, you put your hand on your belly, okay? You take in a deep breath, and then, because you're taking in oxygen, it goes, fills your belly, it helps calms you down. Or you can get what we call any toy, a fidget toy, right? So yes, any fidget toy you have. What's your name again? Liam has a fidget toy. You can have a fidget toy. It does actually work, because if you're feeling highly anxious, something to help you manage, so the physical touch of anything can help. It could be a squishy ball, a stress ball. Some people like silk, so they just, play with it. It really helps ground you, okay? So find something that fits for you and use when you're struggling with anxiety. Engage in self-care. What do I mean by that? Exercise. I've always said, when you're struggling with your mental health and you really stick with it, you will not do anything. I don't feel like it, and I don't feel like it. Feelings alone does nothing to us. Is that true? You can feel all you want. It's only action that brings change. It's only action that brings change. Although you may not feel like getting out of bed, get up and go take a nice warm shower. I've had clients always, once they do something, they feel a bit better. Go out for a walk. And don't just go for a walk. Notice your environment. Do it mindfully. Notice that tree there that is blooming and is beautiful. Admire nature. God has given us so much to really admire. So go for a walk and not just zoom, go and come back. Do it mindfully. Do it with intention. Do everything you do with intention, because God has given it to us to enjoy. Okay? Consider light therapy. I don't know how many people know about light therapy. Okay, so Costco sells it. I don't know if they sell, because sometimes when, especially a day like this, is gloomy, there's no light, you can actually use light therapy and it can help you with your mood. Okay, it might be a bit expensive, but if it's worth investing in it. Okay, so you can use it if and when you need to. Work steadily, not hard, because sometimes strong desire to get better can actually slow you down. Sometimes you're frustrated, and so you're striving so hard to get better, that can actually slow you down, okay? Give yourself credit for your successes. A lot of people who struggle with their mental health don't want to celebrate their successes. You tell them, oh, wow, you did well. No, they brush it aside. But celebrate your successes. Everybody has some talents and abilities that God has given us, so celebrate them. Surround yourself with positive, encouraging people. By that I mean, if you're always around people who are constantly whining and complaining, and it really drains you, doesn't it? It does. So surround your people who can encourage you, people who can, and I know it's not always easy, you want to be part of the crowd, you want to be part of the in-group, but purpose that you're going to surround yourself with people who encourage you. People who pull you, let's go out, let's go do things, so that you're not constantly in yourself. Look for volunteering opportunities. I hope you're all looking. Is it compulsory that you do volunteering in your? Okay, good. Because it's also going to help you when you come into university setting, right? A lot of people think, oh, it's volunteering, it's a waste of my time. It's not. It's really going to help you. So look for a volunteer opportunity and engage with it. Listen to music. If you love music, listen to music, dance if you can, Don't take life too seriously. These are all interventions that are really going to help you, okay? Journal. How many journal here? Yeah. If you're a writer, just journal, right? I've had our clients who actually come in and draw sometimes how they are feeling. They will draw their feelings, and we'll talk about it to be a point of conversation. So journal if you're able to. Write things down, because when you keep things right in your brain, it does overwhelm you. So write things down if you're able to, okay? And I put consider mindful practice. Again, that's what I shared, you know, the deep breathing exercises. Create connections. Somebody said they like hanging out with your friends here. Yes, yeah. Create connections, plan trips. Let's go here, let's do this. If you don't plan, it's not going to happen. All right, plan it, put it in your day so that it can be useful. Another thing I would encourage people to do is what I call write a rainy day letter for yourself. When you're really in a good spot, write a letter to encourage you and put it in your wallet. So a rainy day letter basically is, you know, set aside some time when you're calm and relate to scenery in your life and write a letter. List the activities that you find comforting for you. You can record the names and phone numbers of people that are impactful in your life. Okay, remind yourself of your strength and your virtues, things that are important to you. So these are all things you can put in your rainy day letter, okay? And you're not going to give it to anybody. This is something that you can pull out when you're feeling down. Remind yourself of some of your hopes and dreams of the future. I hope you all have that. Do you all have hopes and dreams about the future? You do. I'm going individually. Hopefully we all have hopes and dreams for the future, okay? Because if you don't, it really takes away from you. Dream about something. Write about something that you're working towards. I know now the world, you listen to the news and it feels like, this is so depressing. But we have hope. We have hope. So hold on to that and give yourself special advice or other reminders important to you. So this is a rainy day letter. If you want to, you can write a rainy day letter for yourself, fold it nicely and put it in your wallet. Because hopefully you all have wallets and things that you carry with you. So that when you're really feeling down, you can pull it up and it will remind you of who you are. Okay? And I think I've gone through all this already. Wow, time goes by so fast. Oh my goodness. Okay, so the last thing I would end on before I open up for question is I want to share John 15:5. It's a scripture, and I love that scripture. It says, and I like my Amplified Bible because it expands things for me. He says, I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever lives in me and I in him bears much abundant fruit. However, apart from me, which is if you're cut off from the vital union with me, you can do nothing. So although we've talked about all these things, apart from Christ, you can do nothing. So I just want to instill in you the hope that you can do all things through Christ, who strengthens you. So when you feel like your life is feeling hopeless, remember that you have your faith, and that can be your anchor. So that is my workshop, and I was going to do give you more 15 minutes to questions. So any questions for me before we wrap up? Errol? Yes?
How do you go about helping someone who's like stubborn to all kinds of like
I can barely hear you.
Like for example, I know a person, he's been diagnosed with depression. I don't know exactly what, but he doesn't want to take medication because he's scared of the side effects. He also doesn't, not interested in like going to church or anything like that. Exactly.
How to, yeah. And what's your name?
Justin.
Justin is asking, how do you help somebody who clearly, you know, is struggling with their mental health? What do you do? First and foremost, never stop praying for them. Okay? Because nobody can stop you from praying. That's a good one. The second thing is, and I do have, I don't know, I only printed 10 copies, but I have this handout, and I fold it nicely, how to help somebody who's struggling. So what I encourage people to do, what not to do and what will be helpful, please do not be a part of the stigmatization. Don't make assumptions. Don't nag the person. Don't distance yourself from them. The worst thing we can do about somebody who's struggling is we distance us, because it can be frustrating. It can be frustrating when you keep helping and they don't want to take it, but be mindful not to distance yourself from them, but also be mindful that you are not being fully engaged that is really stressing you out either. It's like a balancing act. When do I step in? When do I pull back? That's why I start off by saying pray for them. Okay, so I can give you one of these handouts, and I only have 10 copies. If we need more, maybe the authorities here can make copies for you. So be part of the solution. I know this is what we call validation. Validate what they are feeling. I care about you. I really hope you can go seek help. And sometimes you can do the physical thing. Go with them if they choose to. Go with them to the doctor's appointment. Go with them on the walk. Engage with that. It's a long journey if you're supporting somebody who's struggling with their mental health. On the other hand, you don't want to be drained from it. So you have to really know, when do I step in and when do I step out? Okay? And encourage them to continue seeking help. You don't pull away, because it's like, I've tried, and yeah, it can be frustrating. And especially with depressive symptoms, it can be very, very frustrating. So Justin, I can give you one of this, okay? Review it. I'm not saying it's a one-size-fits-all, but at least it to give you an idea of things that you can do. Hopefully it can be helpful, okay? And I'll put the rest here. People want to grab it. I just had to make 10 copies so that you can know how best to support your friend, okay? Yeah. Yes, Lauren.
Are you guys in the same youth group?
Yeah.
I just thought of something when you said that. To go along with your idea, maybe if you guys did an activity where you pick, everyone gets somebody, and you write an encouraging letter to that person. Because you know how sometimes it's hard to write yourself an encouraging letter? But if you have somebody who writes you an encouraging letter, you get to read that. You can pull it up, because I'm a high school teacher. Anyways, there are days where I get discouraged teaching. I feel like I'm wasting my time. And I'll read a note from a student who has thanked me, and it really encourages me. And I say, yeah, it's just one kid I'm encouraged, go. So sometimes if you write a letter to somebody in this group and made it an activity, you'd have that letter to read. Anyways.
Thank you, Lorraine. I don't know the structure of things, but that's a good idea. And if people are willing, again, we're not asking you to do it, something to think about. We all need encouragement. Sometimes you need somebody to tell you. I always tell clients, I'm sometimes a counselor, sometimes I'm a cheerleader. I do it all. Because somebody wants you to know that, I see you and I hear you. Every human being wants to be seen and heard, okay? So if that suggestion is something that you do as a congregation, why not? Right? You notice something in somebody, let them know. Thank you for being so caring. I like it when you step in and do things. Let people know. I always say we always wait till somebody dies and then we take all these amazing, lovely things about them. Why don't you go to somebody and say, I really appreciate you for who you are? Why can't we do that? So thank you, Lorraine. Hopefully it's something that you can talk among yourselves and implement and help support each other. Yeah, thank you. Any more questions before I wrap up? Yes.
When talking about stigmas and barriers to getting help, one of the things that I struggle with is for the people that are struggling with mental health, they don't want to reach out because they know that the answer is professional help, and they're maybe not ready to go get professional help. But on the other side of that, then we who are ready to help them have also kind of been told that, well, you need to tell them to go get professional help, and we almost sometimes don't have a voice to speak into mental health. And so how do you hold that balance of letting the professionals give them the help that they need and give them the answers and the wisdom, but also being able to help the others in that moment and be a voice and be a part of their healing without professional help?
Yes,
that
yes,
balance that I'm
yes.
talking about?
Yes, thank you. And I've always said, God put us in positions for a reason. So if you're a youth leader or you're part of the youth team or you connect with the youth more than them going to see a therapist. So there's a reason why you are a youth leader. There's a reason why God has put you there. So I've always said, ask God for wisdom. Because we don't want to push people, just go seek professional help because that's going to solve all your problems. We don't have all the answers, you know, but sometimes you as a youth leader or as a friend, that's why knowing your friends, maybe they'll talk to you. They'll talk to you. That's why it's important to know what's going on in their lives again, and you give them room to share as much or as little as they want. As long as there's no safety issues. I've always said that. You know, are you feeling safe? And so go over safety. And again, I said that there's no time to talk about how do you assess for suicidality and all that. But are you feeling safe? You know, and sometimes they may tell, I don't even want my parents to know. As long as there's no safety issues, that's fine. Encourage them, support them, pray with them, right? Because we don't want to push somebody. And if somebody is not ready for therapy and you push them, it's not going to work. It's not. They're just going through the, you know, I've had clients tell me, I was forced to go to therapy, it doesn't work. So if you are in a position of power, in a position of authority, and you can support the youth, and you can create a safety net for them and come to talk to you, why not? And that the onus then will be on you to know more about these things, right? So that you'll be able to then to support them in a healthy way. Because if you don't know what you're talking about and they come to you, then it's not really going to. So I always encourage the leaders, learn a little bit more mental health, learn a little bit more how to do what not to do. And then I always say, as long as there's that window of opportunity for them to come to you, then there is hope. Then there is hope. And if they don't push the professional help thing, if they don't want to, if you're creating space for them to talk to you and to process that is meaningful. That is meaningful. Does that answer your question? Yeah, because most of our young adults, and sometimes they don't want to talk to adults. You know, I don't want to, but I trust my youth pastor, so I'll go talk to my youth pastor or something. And sometimes it's creating that safety for them to be able to come and talk to you. It's useful. Yeah. Okay. Does that answer the question? Oh, okay. Any last question, or we're done? I don't want to just wrap up. Any thoughts, any questions? Are we good? Okay, well, thank you very much for your time. Yeah. And I will connect with, I only know Pastor Andrew. If you have any questions or anything, you can connect with your youth leaders. And if I have any resources or anything that will be useful for you, I wouldn't hesitate to pass it on. If this is not enough, I don't know, a leader who can print more for people so that at least those who are helpers will know what to do and what not to do. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you.